This is Peter. 44 years ago, Peter became the proud father of a baby girl named
Rosalie.
Rosalie, I love you. Rosalie, I care. She was his proud bundle of joy. But after the baby was born, what happened?
I was told that I would be leaving to go to Korea.
Okay, the Korean War.
Korean War. I would have to leave my family, which the mother and the daughter, behind down at Long Island, New York. I received a letter from her overseas that she had found another man. And I continued to try to trace her.
Peter, what are your memories of Rosalie?
Well, last time I remember her.
I'm sorry, Peter.
As a small child, counting her hands, thumbs, and feet, checked the whole body, and she was perfect. And I haven't seen her since.
Peter, why did you do this unusual thing? Why did you spend 44 years trying to find her? When you see people on the street, do you wonder, do you look at their age and say, could this be my daughter?
True. I see some lovely woman going by, and I wonder if that was my daughter.
44 years, a very long time to wait to see a baby girl. Peter, I have a surprise for you. We found Rosalie. She's waiting backstage, and she really wants to see you. Rosalie, come on up. With you. Peter has 3 daughters, Dee, Suzanne, and Vicky. You are their new big sister. Let's give them a chance to say hello. Can you imagine? We'll be right back. By the way, it was Linda's daughter, Dana, that was searching for her. Now, before we meet the daughter, we're going to hear Linda's unbelievable story. It took place 27 years ago when she was forced to give up her firstborn daughter. Mother and daughter have not seen each other ever.
I got to hold her when she was a day old and kiss her goodbye.
1 day old.
1 day old.
Okay, so they have seen each other when the child was 1 day old. They're going to meet for the first time in a few minutes. Take me back to the beginning. Now, this is a little difficult for anybody, I think, to have to admit, because sometimes when these things happen, we've done something that we might be a bit ashamed of. You were married at the time.
I was married to a Marine that had shipped out to Vietnam, and I had gone out to live on the West Coast with him.
Okay.
I was pregnant at the time with
Right.
our son.
All right.
And after he shipped out, I had our son, and he didn't support us. There was problems right from the first, so I took a job in a soul food restaurant cleaning to make ends meet, and I met a black fellow that was also being shipped to Vietnam, and we were just friends. And then all of a sudden it evolved into like 2 weeks, and then he shipped out.
So your husband is overseas, you have a lover, the
Yes.
lover is shipped out, and you're still left in the cleaning the soul food restaurant
Right.
with a new baby and no money.
No money at all.
And you made a discovery, you were pregnant. Couldn't be the husband, had to be the lover.
Had
Now,
to be.
that baby was Dana, right?
Yes.
What reason would you have to have hold her for 1 day and give her up? What happened?
I knew eventually I would have to go back home, and home is Salamone, Indiana. And 30 years ago, it wasn't like it is now, nor was I like I am now. I'm a strong person now. And I knew she wouldn't, I was afraid she would be mistreated.
Because she was biracial?
Because she was biracial.
Did you tell your husband that you were pregnant?
I wasn't going to, and then when I was 5.5 months, he sent me a letter from Vietnam saying he wanted me to meet him in Hawaii for R&R, and that it was up. I had to tell him the truth.
Because if you're going to meet somebody for R&R, you're already out to R&R.
Yes, I was. Basically so.
What was the feeling in giving up the child?
The feeling was hell, because when I was growing up, I'm one of 6 children. And when I was 14, Mom had a baby sister, and when I was 18, she had a baby sister, and I took care of them. And all I ever really wanted was a baby daughter. But I could not do that to her. I just couldn't.
Did you ever have another daughter?
No. I named them all girls' names, and they were all boys.
How did you feel when you learned that Dana was trying to find you?
Oh, God.
How do you feel about seeing your daughter?
I've been more concerned.
Very much.
Girl that you have. You know, I'm an adoptive parent too, so this means a great deal to me. And I think you have to be one to really understand. I think it's wonderful that you came here to support her. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it. Are you all right?
I'm the best I've been in 27 and a half years.
We'll be right back. Pretty wonderful thing. Today we're helping people search for missing loved ones, and I want you to meet Angelique. She has been desperate to find her brother Dale, whom she says was taken from their home when she was a little girl, and she has no idea why. Tell me about your childhood.
Well, it was a very difficult childhood. It was like a classic Cinderella story. Had an evil stepmother.
An evil step, a real one.
Really evil, very much so. My parents were divorced when I was very young, and my dad took my brother and I, and my mother kept her 4 older daughters from a previous marriage. And soon after that, he met my stepmother and married her, and she always came first, so the kids got left to the side. And when I was in 1st grade, I ended up living with my aunt and uncle, and my brother Dale was sent to live with my mom. And I kind of went back and forth between households.
Not good for a child.
No, not at all, not at all. And I'm not sure exactly why, but it was because of my stepmother. And, you know, Dale was sent to live with my mom, and the last time I saw him I was in 1st grade, and I went to visit my mom when I was 12, and I had very little contact with her, very little. But before I left, my stepmother told me that they had given my brother up for adoption when he was 9.
When he was 9?
9 years old.
You told our producers that your only good memories from childhood were the ones of your brother, who
Right.
just disappeared at 9 years of age. Can you share some of the memories?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. It was like a typical brother-sister relationship. You know, he tormented me, told me little things like there are these dandelion things that would fly around in Tahoe. And he told me if those catch you, they're going to suck your blood and eat your bones. And so for years, I was terrified of these
dandelions?
things. Yeah, they're like little floaty white things. Terrified of them. But, you know, he'd ride me around on his handlebars on his bike and take me down to a local store, and we stole some toys. He taught me how to do little things like that.
He taught you how to steal?
Well, a little bit.
It's kind of sweet, I guess.
Yeah.
Angelique, why do you, it's been 25 years since you've seen your brother Dale. Why do you want to try and find him?
Well, I've always wanted to try to find him. I think it's very important. I mean, he was so important to me as a child.
It was the
And-
two of you against the world.
Yeah. I mean, we were on our own a lot just
Right.
the two of us playing, catching lizards, doing typical things. I just think
Whenever
for
you see
closure.
somebody on the street, do you think, gosh, that may be my brother?
You know, I've done that, even at Toys R Us, you know, because for all I know, he lives around the block from me in Las Vegas, you know, and I've been at Toys R Us, I'm like, oh my gosh, that might be him. And then I never get the courage up to go and ask, because they might think I'm crazy.
But how does the family that adopted you feel about you reuniting with Angelique?
You know what? I went to my father, my adoptive father, and I was a little apprehensive because, you know, they, out of all the people in the world, they chose me. You know, it's not...
That's right.
You know, so there's a special bond there, and I really, really didn't want to hurt them at all, you know, but they seemed very excited, actually, when I talked to them, because they felt that this would answer a lot of questions in my life, being reunited.
They sound
with
like
my sisters.
very good people.
They are.
Very good people.
Very
Are they
good
Mormons?
people. Yes, they are.
Okay. Angelique, we have another surprise for you. First, I want you to meet Dale's sister, Lynette. Lynette, can you come on out? Lynette, you wanted to speak to Angelique?
When Dale was 9, we invited him into our family, and we've spent a lot of years with him, loving him as a brother. And my family is ready to open our arms and accept you into our family as a sister.
We'll be right back. This man's name is Bob Korn. Bob is 46 years old. And one day, my husband, Carl, was with me in the office, and he gets a call from Bob, which is not that unusual because we've known him for a while. And Bob says that in one day, he went from thinking he'd been an only child his whole life to finding out he had 10 brothers and sisters. Now that's a story. Take me back to the beginning. You told me that after you were born, nobody came to get you at the hospital?
Well, my mom, she was committed to a mental institution. She was the first lieutenant of the Army Nurse Corps, and she was like 48 or something like that when I was born. And the stress of that and everything, she just couldn't handle it, so she was committed. My dad was about 55, and what was he going to do with a child that old? But I did find out that I was there till I was like 6 months old.
Now, can you imagine that a child is left in a hospital, the mother they take away to a mental institution, the father doesn't want the child, and they leave you in a hospital for 6 months?
Roughly, yeah. And then my grandmother, which is my mom's stepmother in South Carolina, she was 5 years older than my dad, actually. She was bound and determined to come and get me. My grandfather didn't want her to come, and a lot of the other relatives didn't want her because she was, you know, she was 60 and was too old to raise a child. But my grandmother was really strong and great, and she said, "To hell with it." She boarded a plane and she went to Chicago, and she picked me up out of that hospital and she brought me back to South Carolina.
So you're 6 months old, and Grandma comes to get you. What was Grandma's name?
Her name was, well, I called her Mama, but she was Aunt Mitty and Miss Mitty. And we lived in this old house. We didn't have any running water. We had a well.
No water?
No, we had a well. You go out and you know, roll it up. We had outdoor plumbing. Had a two-holer, and a coal truck used to come and drop off a ton of coal because we'd, you know, get that in the winter and put it in a coal stove.
Were there any nice neighbors who helped you out?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Sally. If you get Hillary Clinton's book, Takes a Village to Raise a Kid, well, my village that raised me is on 000 Road, Ware Place, South Carolina. That's just south of Greenville. And there were Helen Whitney and Bob and Bill Whitney and their 3 kids. There were the Chandlers. They had a farm, Helen and Wilton and Wilda. He was the closest thing I had to a dad. Used to go down and plow and throw chicken manure out because they had a chicken farm, raised chicken. And you had to take it out because otherwise you couldn't walk in the chicken coops. So you throw it on the field.
Isn't this a guy?
You know.
All right.
And
Bad
my best friend was Steve Candler, because he was my age, and he rented a house his parents did from Helen Whitney and them.
Okay. Then one day he's at school and he sees somebody coming across the field, and it's like a social worker type, and he knows something. He knows that grandmother, which is step-grandmother, has died. He's 12 years old. Where did you go?
We were practicing for this high school thing. I was in the band.
Little boy?
Oh, I have lots of fond memories of Bobby as a little boy, but one stands out in my mind, Sally. And he followed this pattern so often. During summer vacations, I would hear him, I was still asleep in bed. I would hear him and Duke, his dog, coming down the road. He was talking to Duke. He had come into our kitchen where my mom was, and his first comment was, "Where's Wilda?" Right on through to my bedroom, he'd stick his head around the door. "Wake up, Sleeping Beauty."
I am so glad. Again, I hope you keep in contact. You have to tell him about the whole family and what's been happening. Wilda's parents couldn't be here today. She has been kind enough to bring you a message. I'd like you to, Bob, you look up at that, or over here, either way, and let's take a look.
Bobby, I wish I could be with you today, but according to health problems, I can't. But I wish you luck. I miss you running around with me on the tractor and helping me round up the cows. I love you. And you sing with one of my boys, so.
Hi, Bobby. I'm sorry I can't be up there with you today. If I remember the first time I ever saw you, you was about a year old, and your aunt scolded you for something, and I took you up on my lap and petted you, and from that day on, you always seemed like my own little boy. I love you, Bobby, and hope to see you soon.
We'll be right back. 44 years old, are you, Lisa? Lisa would like to find her mother, Diana, who she believes left her over 20 years ago. Left you?
Yes.
What were you told about why your mother left you?
That she cheated on my dad.
She cheated on your dad. And then what happened?
My dad said that she was unfit, so he took me away from her.
Okay. How was your childhood?
I didn't have a childhood.
What was Dad like?
He was never there for me. I was tossed in between him and my grandmother.
Okay.
And then when she passed away, I was put in a foster home.
Did grandmother help your father raise you?
No, she would just raise me, and then when my dad would get a girlfriend and he would think that she was fit to be my mom, then he would want me to come to stay with him.
So it's grandmother's house and back in a new girlfriend, and grandmother's house and back in a new girlfriend. How old were you when grandmother died?
I was 14.
Was she a good woman?
Yes.
And then you were put into foster care at 14.
No, I was 15 when I was put in a foster home.
How long did you live in foster care?
For 2 years.
And then what happened?
Then I was on my own at 17.
Why did you not check to see what had happened to your mother?
Because I was scared.
Scared of what?
She wouldn't want me.
Why?
Because of what my dad said.
What did your dad say?
Just that she was unfit, you know, like she didn't want to be my mom. That's why, you know, she had cheated.
She cheated because she didn't want to be your mom. That's what he told you.
Yes.
Wow. 21 years, a long time not to have a mother. And I don't think you should wait another moment. Would you like to meet your mother? I can make that happen.
I would like it very much.
I'll do my best. Diana, come on out. For some many of the reunions you saw here today, and so thank you for your hard work. I have some things I want to talk to you about. First of all, you said to me there's something really unusual about 2 of those reunions.
Well, you know what's really interesting to me is that, you know, you showed a statistic earlier that we provided about 3 out of 4 adoptive parents are supporting their children, adult children, in searching. It didn't used to always be that way.
Oh gosh, no.
Adoptive parents have always had this great fear that somebody was going to come show up some time and take their children away and say, I want them back.
Right.
And we are completely against that, first of all. I know there's this big Baby Richard thing going on in the news, and we're completely against people taking their children back. But I have to tell you, I know a lot of people videotape your show. I know my wife does every day. So what I'd like to do for those who watch it, I'd like them to back it up again. I'd like them to watch that segment when Dana's adoptive parents watched her meet her birth mother. Because although it's exciting that birth mother is able to meet Dana,
think of how the parents
you watch
felt.
the courage in their face to stand there and watch their daughter meet the woman that gave birth to her. Those are the heroes.
Yes, that family that was sitting right over there, they're the heroes. Now, Bob Korn found out through a friend who has an internet that he had the 10 brothers and sisters. So, how helpful is the internet in finding people?
Well, Sally, you know, in my personal opinion, which may be against others, it's not as helpful as I would have guessed it would be.
Why?
Well, because some of the information out there, I mean, we searched through there and tried to see what was out there. More times than not, it's business cards for private investigators who just want you to call and give them money. So it's very, very